Professor Joseph Drew from the University of Technology, Sydney. I know a lot of you have been watching my videos, and thank you very much for having the patience to listen through them all. And I enjoyed meeting a lot of you at the public forums recently, last couple of weeks. During those public forums, I told you quite clearly that your council in its current configuration is not financially sustainable into the mid-term, long-term. Now, I've been doing some work since then, and I've produced a financial sustainability report for council, and it's pretty obvious to me that you're living in what's called fiscal illusion, that we're not sustainable. We do have a budget emergency. Now, don't panic. It's nothing that we can't fix, but there's going to be some changes, and they're going to start very, very shortly, and I need you to be aware of why I'm doing this and why I'm suggesting this, and how harsh it's going to be, and what sort of time frame until we get out the other side when things get better. So fiscal illusion is a term economists use for when people are essentially in la-la land. And you've been in la-la land for 4 years. For 4 years since amalgamation, you've been getting new things. You've got a bigger council, you know, new toys, new playgrounds, and library upgrades, and aquatic centre upgrades, and all sorts of things. And your rates haven't gone up. And your fees and charges haven't gone up. Now, that's not reasonable. We all know that if you get something, you have to pay more. And if you don't pay more, what actually happens is eventually you get to the stage where you're almost running out of money. Now, we're not running out of money tomorrow, but if we don't change radically in the next year or two, and there'll be changes starting this financial year in July 1, if we don't change radically, we will run out of money. And there's communities in Australia, they're always rural communities because they're the ones doing it tough, such as Central Darling Shire Council, where the state government decided they were running out of money. They stepped in, they put in what's called a financial administrator. And that administrator comes in with a razor and he slashes. He slashes staff, he slashes services. They decided in Central Darling Shire Council that, in one of the reports, that the airstrip that's used for the Royal Flying Doctors was a luxury, wasn't essential. They decided the cemetery was a non-essential luxury, and they planned to cut that. They cut the community buses. They planned to get rid of the post office that was run by the council, only because the last operator went broke and the next post office was 100 kilometres or more away. It's pretty grim. And I don't want you to go through that devastation. I don't want your staff to go through that devastation, and we're not going to. Your council is 100% behind this plan. We have a plan. We have a good plan, a strong plan to make this a stronger council, and you're going to come out of this looking like the best rural council in this country. But it does involve some pain, and I need you to understand why, and I need you to understand how serious the situation is. One other thing I really need you to understand is this isn't anything your councillors are responsible for. Your GM's not responsible for this. Your financial officer's not responsible for this. A lot of this goes back to the amalgamation. Certainly in the early period with the administrators, a lot of money was wasted. A lot of higher ongoing expenditures locked you into them that will be a weight around you for many years. And then also some of the other things go back decades and decades and decades, like your water pipes in Cootamundra and your sewer system in Gundagai. These problems have been building up over decades, and they should have been dealt with earlier. But look, there's nothing to be gained by blaming. There's nothing to be gained by panicking either. It's no one person's problem, but we've all got to pitch in and fix it. So I've showed you these graphs before, and it's quite clear you're spending well over $10 million a year more since amalgamation than what you were doing previously. You're spending more money, and that's fine if you're getting more money, but you're not. Now, this is probably your typical operating revenue here. This revenue is actually appears higher in this year because of what we call capital grants. Capital grants is when a state or federal government gives your council money and says, this is the money to build the new playground in Gundagai. And they're only allowed to spend it on the new playground in Gundagai. They're not allowed to spend it on paying wages day in, day out, or buying consumables that the council needs, new mowers and fuel and stuff like that. So it makes things look better than what they are, these capital grants, but it doesn't do anything to fix our problem. Our problem is that we're not getting enough operating revenue to cover our operating expenses, our day in, day out expenses, our wages, our consumables. And you simply cannot start spending $10 million a year extra and not increase your revenue and be a viable proposition into the future. It simply can't continue. These are the councils I compared you to, and I'm going to show you a couple of graphs in a minute. These are OLG 11 councils. The Office of Local Government groups you into councils that are similar, and you're now in the OLG 11 group. Hilltop's your neighbours in there. Yass Valley is another neighbour that's in there. You'll know what those councils are like and how similar they are to you. This is your operating performance ratio. When the decision was being made to amalgamate councils, we were told that one of the key ratios was this one, and that amalgamation was going to improve it, and it hasn't. Look at these graphs. I'll explain how they work. The blue graph's 2017, yellow graph's 2018, green graph's 2019. This is what's called a box and whisker plot. What's in the rectangle is the middle 50% of councils. Above the rectangle is the top 25% of councils. Below the rectangle is the bottom 25% of councils. The grey line here is the median. That's a middle number if you put them in ascending order. And the cross is the average. I'll show you on the yellow graph because it's easier to see. Is the mean or the average, just like a cricketer's average. That's the middle. So you're the straight line that's next to that graph. That's Cootamundra-Gundagai. And as you can see, in 2017, which was a strange year, it's a bit longer because of when the amalgamations are done, it's not a particularly good one to look at, you were in that bottom 25% of councils. 2018, you were the very bottom council. 2019, you're in the bottom 25% of councils again. Now, it's normal for these things to jump around a little bit, guys, but it's not normal to be in that bottom quarter all the time, and you've been in there too long, and we've got to change this. We've got to turn the ship around, and we are turning the ship around from next financial year, which starts 1st July onwards. Here's the Nexus ratio. Here's another one. You're not going to like to hear this. This is your fees and charges as a percentage of your expenditure. So how much of your council's expenditure is covered by fees and charges? The higher this is, the better, the more sustainable you are. And you're pretty close to the bottom quartile. You're the very bottom. Got a little bit better here, but you're still well and truly in that bottom 50%. Basically, your fees and charges are too low. You compare yourself to surrounding councils, you'll see that pretty quickly. You compare Cootamundra to Gundagai, you'll see it pretty quickly. Sometimes it goes one way, sometimes it goes the other way. Your charges and fees were too low for too long, and because of that, we're now running out of money to do essential work that must be done. So let me give you some examples. I'm comparing you here to Yass Valley, one of your neighbours. I'm not saying they're right, they're perfect or anything else. I'm just giving you an idea of the going price. So for waste, for your rubbish bins, Cootamundra is paying $4.10, Gundagai is paying $4.94, Yass Valley is paying $517 when you add up those two numbers. You're paying less than the going rate. You've been doing it for years. Well, it's not surprising to me that we don't have enough money to do the work that we need to do on the tip at the moment. Look at water. Cootamundra $3.71, Gundagai $2.30, Yass Valley $4.80. Well, you've been doing it for decades and decades and decades. It's not surprising to me that we don't have enough water to finish the work fixing the water pipes that we've got to finish at Cootamundra. Same with sewer. This one's particularly disturbing because Gundagai residents are paying twice as much as Coota residents. Now, I know water was the opposite way, but it wasn't quite that much of a difference. I firmly believe one council, which you are now, whether we like it or not, until the Boundaries Commission makes a decision. One council, one product, one price. I always give the example of Violet Crumble chocolate bar, which I enjoy. If I buy my Violet Crumble from Woolworths Cootamundra, I expect to get the same Violet Crumble at the same price as if I go down to Gundagai and buy the Violet Crumble from Woolworths Gundagai. That's the way things work. But you haven't been paying the same price, and that's got to change, and that makes these fee changes even worse. Yass Valley, $700 is probably the going price when you look at surrounding councils. I'm not saying that's the price it's going up to, but realistically you've got to be paying close to the going price to be able to afford to do the things that must be done, and there's work to be done at the Gundagai Sewer Works. Here's another graph that explains things again. This time I've got your rates and your fees and charges in, and you can see 2017 is a strange year, as I say. You're in the bottom 50%. 2018, you're pretty close to the bottom. 2019, the bottom 30% or so. your rates also are lower than a typical council. So I showed you this table once before, the new harmonised rates. That's not increasing your rates, it's just making them equal between the two old shires. You compare yourself to the average for similar councils, OLG 11 councils. You're paying about $100 less for residential rates, about $300 less for farmland, about $500 less for business. Well, you can't be getting less revenue and expecting to have enough money to do all the things that an OLG 11 council has to do. Now, I'm sure it hasn't escaped your notice that OLG 9, which is what Gundagai used to be, and OLG 10, which was what Cootamundra used to be, the rates were cheaper. So it's quite obvious that as you get bigger, you go from right to left, the rates go up. So all the hoo-ha about will make you a bigger council and you'll save money, we should have been a little bit suspicious about it if we looked at the rates, the averages for rates for different types of councils. But it's what we've got now. At present, you're an OLG 11 council and your rates are much lower than other OLG 11 councils. That's not a problem, getting less revenue as long as your expenditure is lower, but it's not. Now, I did these graphs of water, sewer and roads as well, and I won't display them here, but they're in my report, which you'll be able to read in a few weeks' time. And you're pretty average for water, you're pretty average for sewer, you're pretty average for road. This is everything else, all the other things. Sport grounds, recreation grounds, community support that we give, all sorts of things, aquatic centres, a lot of what council does in fact. And you can see in 2018 you were in the top 25%. So you got below average revenue, but you got way above average expenditure. You're in the top half here, probably in the top 30% in 2019. So below average revenue, way above average expenditure. That's got to change clearly. Staff expenditure, I've heard a lot of people talk about what's happening in staffing since the amalgamation. Well, you're pretty average, which is good. I don't plan on any staff losing their job. I don't believe in ever taking a job off a person. There's enough hassles in life as it is without adding those sorts of complications to people's lives and devastating people's lives. So that it was never on my drawing board to reduce staff wages, but we can't have average staff wages if we're going to have below average revenue. Deviation for budget. Your council the last 2 years has been going about 30% over budget. What that means is we do a budget before the financial year, we say how much are we going to spend. We've been spending about 30% more. Now the reason why I'm bringing this up is it's not slackness. None of these problems are caused by your council or your council workers. You've got a great group. These are problems that come back to the amalgamation, and some problems come back decades with the water and sewer fees. But we can't spend 30% more than we're planning to spend and still have enough money to pay our bills. It's as simple as that. You can't spend 30% more this year than what you're planning on spending because you'll run out of money. Anyone would. Now, part of the reason why it's happening is we've got some community groups who are asking for lots of help, and there's always good reasons, but they're going to have to get less help in the future. We just don't have the money. They need to start adjusting themselves now. You as taxpayers are paying for that help that you give to these community groups, and they're all good, valid, worthwhile causes, but you need to hold them responsible. They need to become more independent, self-reliant. And part of it's also these stronger community funds, which I really don't like. You know, your new playgrounds, and you're getting a new rock wall and a new push bike truck and all sorts of things. There's a new toy descending from heaven every week. They're a problem. They're a problem because they camouflage the true situation. They make it look like you've got more money than what you have. You don't have much at all. They're a problem because you've got your council building new playgrounds. They have to do it. The state government gives them the money and tells them you must spend that money on doing this and it must get done. And they're doing that instead of doing the core things, getting your roads right, getting your rubbish right, getting your water and your sewer right, getting the pricing right. This pricing should have been fixed up day one by the administrator, but no one wanted to give you the bad news the day after forced amalgamation, so it's just lingered on for 4 years. Rates have to go up. Remember, we were prevented by law for putting them up for 4 years, but now we're no longer prevented and they'll have to go up. They're the things your council needs to be focusing on, not on the stronger community funds. And the other thing that I hate about stronger community funds is they entrench this fiscal illusion. You know, average person in your town's thinking, oh wow, we're getting all these new things, new aquatic centres, new playgrounds, new this, new that. Someone announcing a new thing every week in the newspaper. and my rates haven't gone up, and my fees haven't gone up. Isn't this wonderful? Well, no, it's not wonderful, because it's not reality. We've been living in la la land, and reality is confronting us now, and we're going to have to go through some pain. I warned you at the public forums it was coming, and it is coming. This thing here is what's called the long-term financial plan. I won't go through it in too much detail, but basically councils plan how much revenue and expenditure you're going to have over the next 10 years and what their financial position is going to look like. 3 lines we're particularly interested in. I'm looking at the same 15 councils going. Light blue line is the mean or the average, like a cricketer's average. The orange line is the median line. That's the middle number if we put them in ascending order. You're the dark blue line. And as you can see, for the next 10 years, we're planning on having less revenue than average, less than typical revenue. That's fine, that's great for you guys, keeps your fees down, but it's not going to work unless our expenditure is less. And as you can see from this graph, we're expecting to have slightly above average expenditure most years. Well, if you're going to have less revenue in other councils, but you're going to have higher expenditure in other councils, you're going to get this. Deficits, as far as you can see. So these are in thousands of dollars. 2021 we're planning on having a loss of 2-point-something million again. 2022 we're planning on losing another 2 million. 2023 we're planning on losing another 1-point-something million, and so forth. Well, there's a limit to how many years you can lose millions, and you've been losing them for the last 4 years before you run out of money. And we're getting to the crunch point. We're all working very hard, me, the council, your councillors, and we've got a great plan, and we're going to avoid the crunch point. But we need your help, and that's why I'm explaining the situation to you. Now, it gets even worse if you take those capital grants out, you know, the ones I really don't like, the special community funds and all those sorts of things. Take them out, you see the real situation. They've been camouflaging the real situation. The real situation is we're going to lose 4-point-something million this year. We're planning on losing another 3-point-something million the next year. We're planning on losing another 3 million the next year. Well, anyone can see you can't do that for many years before you run out of money. Things have got to change, and they are changing. They're changing from 1st of July this year. Now, we have to respond to this emergency. I cannot have your community devastated like Central Darling Shire. I will not allow it to happen. Your councillors will not allow it to happen. And all your staff, who are a great bunch of people, you really should value them. You're very lucky to have it. They won't allow it to happen. We're all going to make sacrifices to make sure it doesn't happen. But you're going to have to sacrifice too. We all need to be part of this team effort. Your waste charges are going up, not a terrible lot. It's not quite as desperate as some other things. Your water charges are going up a fair bit. Sorry, we just need the money to finish that work. We've got no choice. I agonise over every dollar I think about putting your charges up, and I'm trying to make it as low as possible, but I must get enough money to keep us afloat. Your sewer charges are going up for Cootamundra residents, slightly down for Gundagai residents. That's just going to happen. There will be what's called a special rate variation. This is when we apply to the minister to put your rates up more than normal. Now, we were prevented by law from doing that for 4 years. We're no longer prevented from doing it. We have to do it. I'm really, really sorry, but we have to do it. And they're going to be very high increases. At the moment, I'm planning on having huge increases in the order of 17%, then another 17%, then another 10%. It won't happen next financial year. It'll happen the financial year after. I'm hoping, and I'm very confident, because you've got such a dedicated group of counsellors and staff, that I'm going to avoid those awful numbers. We're going to get that number down a lot. People are going to make sacrifices and keep those numbers down. You're going to help us keep those numbers down. But I'd be lying to you if I was saying you're not going to have double-digit percentage increases in your rates after next financial year, because you are. It just has to happen. There is no way out. If there was, I'd take it. Council will be cutting back costs significantly to minimise this cost, but we will not be sacking any staff. I do not believe in it. But we're going to cut every other dollar we can find. If there's a dollar that doesn't have to be spent for the next 5 years, we've got a critical time of 3 years, but there's an austerity period of 5 years. So for the next 5 years, we've got no spare money. In fact, we don't have enough money. For those 5 years, if there's a dollar we don't have to spend, we're not going to spend it. That means your service levels are going to go down. Your footpaths mightn't get mowed as much. Your parks mightn't be as tidy. Your potholes mightn't be filled in as much. But I'm pretty confident you guys are going to cope. You understand the situation. We're trying to do our best for you, and we are doing our best for you, and this is the best, and you're going to have lower standards of services, and we just have to cope. We're going to get through this 5 years. We're going to be the best rural council in the state, if not the country, because we're all going to understand that council is not a bottomless pit of money. It's not a bucket that we can keep pouring money out of. And when everyone understands that, staff, residents, customers, everyone understands that, we'll be much stronger, and we'll be stronger for decades. This bad experience is going to make us stronger and better forever. As soon as the pressure's off the budget, we're going to take the pressure off you. The moment we can, we will. Everyone's firmly committed on this. If that means we have rate freezes down the track, or even reduced fees down the track, if it's prudent and sensible to do it, we'll do it. But for now, for the next 3 to 5 years, sorry guys, we're all going to be paying extra. What can you do? You can join the team. You can be a friend of the council. Remember that old war ad? Don't ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Well, stick the word council in there. Don't ask what council can do for you. Ask yourself, what can I do for council? I'll give you an example. The old lady down the road from me, I live on a farm. She walks down about the same 3 kilometre road that I walk down every morning for exercise, and she has a bag with her. She picks up rubbish. She does that to save council money, to make a community look better. We can do those sorts of things. When a dog knocks over your rubbish bin, if you can clean it up yourself, clean it up yourself. When your footpath needs mowing, if you can mow it yourself, mow it yourself. If you're in a club and the council mows your footy field at the moment, or cricket pitch at the moment, if you can mow it yourself, mow it yourself. If you need to borrow a mower off council, I'm sure they'll lend one to you. Mow it yourself. You know, if you need some work done on the showgrounds or something like this, surely someone in the showground committee can do it themselves. Yeah, we'll provide you with materials or tools if you really need it. Do it yourself. Every time you help council, you're helping your community and you're helping yourself. Every dollar is important. We have a new mantra in our council. Every dollar counts. We're not going to be saved by some great big silver bullet. We're going to be saved by day in, day out decisions. Hundreds of decisions for this community through your staff. When we have a choice to spend $1 or not to spend $1, we're going to choose not to spend it. And that's what's going to save us. That's going to reduce the pain on you. Join the team effort. Be part of the team. Be part of the council. Be a friend of the council. Help us. Make your views on this boundary reform known. You know, I've told you straight out, I think your best bet is to de-amalgamate. I think a lot of the problems go down to the amalgamation. We're still suffering from it. We'll be suffering for many years, even if we do get de-amalgamated. Now, the Boundaries Commission saying you don't have to write in another submission. I reject that totally. We need to bury them in paper. Write your one-liner, put up a video about how to do it. Say whether you want to be stay amalgamated or be de-amalgamated. Say why, refer to the legislation. We bury them in paper, they will have to listen to you. If you know someone that isn't writing a submission, they're opening next week, I think. The council's got some details up on the website about it. If you know someone that's not writing a submission, get them to write a submission. I do not want you ignored this time. But I can't do this for you guys. It's each one of you. You all have friends, you all have family. Tell your friends and family to get off the fence, write the submission. That'll help, but it won't save us from this pain. It'll save us from some of it, but it won't save us from all of it. Now, we're going to get through this emergency. I've written a lengthy document. Your councillors, great group of people. Your staff, absolutely brilliant. They're all behind this plan 100%. We're going to survive. You're not going into financial administration. I won't allow it to happen. Your councillors won't allow it to happen. Your staff won't allow it to happen. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be devastated. We have a plan. We're going to follow the plan. We're going to win. We're going to triumph. But we need your help. We need you to help us help you. This is your time to join the team. Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to talking to you in the next videos. Bye.